Trees. Growers of fruits, spices, and nuts. Generators of shade. Home to birds, squirrels, koalas. Frontline soldiers in the fight against climate change? You bet. Today we're doing something a little different and talking about TeamTrees.org's mission of planting 20 million new trees by 2020, where every donation of $1 equals 1 tree. You might be asking yourself, what would planting 20 million new trees do for the planet? Let's take a look at just how huge an impact each donation on Team Trees will make. A wide variety of organisms from lichen to bees to possums call trees home, and just one single mature oak tree can be home to as many as 500 different species. The Earth is rapidly losing species. We're in the middle of a mass extinction, and without trees for them to call home, many more animals will be at risk for extinction. Many animals require trees as a place to live, to feed, and to provide protection, so planting just one tree is like building a house, feeder, and nursery all at once. Donating $20 to plant 20 trees is like building an entire animal city. Multiply that by 1 million and we're talking about a super metropolis of biodiverse animal life. Study after study shows that spending time in a grove of trees or forest can provide emotional rejuvenation. It can improve your mood, create a sense of peace while reducing stress, depression, and anger. The Japanese even have a word for this, Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. The effect of trees is not only emotional but physical. Studies have shown that being among trees reduces blood pressure as well as lessens stress-related hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. So basically, trees make you happy. Plenty of scientific research has shown that happier people commit less crimes, especially violent ones. We think a grove of even just a few trees would be pretty nice. 20 million new trees would mean potentially thousands of new groves, which means millions of people able to take regular forest baths, increasing happiness and reducing crime. You'd be a regular crime fighter all thanks to the trees you helped plant. Trees reduce air temperature through blocking sunlight and creating shade. Trees also help it cool by reflecting heat upwards from their leaves. Further cooling occurs when moisture evaporates from the surface of the leaves, just like the way your body cools down by sweating. Trees can cool down an area by a lot, and we're not talking just a couple of degrees. Urban neighborhoods with mature trees can be up to 11 degrees cooler in summer heat than neighborhoods without trees. Just think about the difference between a miserably hot 90-degree day and a warm, comfortable 79 degrees. Trees can also cool down buildings, limiting the need for air conditioning, which has the added benefit of helping to conserve energy. Studies have shown that shade from strategically planted trees can reduce the air conditioning costs of buildings by 20% to 30%. Just think, if an average home has a cooling power bill of around $100 per month in the summer, and if 10 trees were planted around that same house, then 30% could be saved. And that means 20 million trees planted around homes could save $60 million in energy costs. So if you can't donate to this particular cause, please consider planting a few trees around your house. Not only will they be a beautiful addition, but they might even save your future self some money on your power bill. Trees are ideal for use as sound barriers because they reduce sound in 2 ways. First, they absorb the sound since thick branches and leaves are great at absorbing high-frequency noise. Secondly, trees deflect sound. When a sound hits a rigid material, it bounces back. When a sound hits flexible material such as branches, the material vibrates and the sound is transformed into other forms of energy. A thick row of trees can block as much as 15 decibels of sound. That's almost like wearing a pair of earplugs, but you have something beautiful to look at instead of uncomfortable foam in your ears. The root system of trees holds soil in place during heavy rainstorms, preventing erosion, flooding, and mudslides, keeping people and buildings safe. Trees improve water quality too, as their root systems help to filter impurities and retain water within the soil. This allows for water tables to be recharged, with less water ultimately ending up in sewers and diminishing the amount of stormwater carrying pollutants to the ocean. A single 100-foot tall tree can take as much as 11,000 gallons of water out of the soil during its growing season, releasing the water as healthy oxygen and clean water vapor. That means 20 million trees could filter a staggering 220 billion gallons. That's enough to fill more than 300,000 Olympic swimming pools. Humans inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Trees do exactly the opposite by absorbing and storing carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, which produces and releases oxygen as a byproduct. Excess carbon dioxide is building up in our atmosphere, strengthening the greenhouse effect and contributing to global warming. The more trees the Earth has, the more carbon dioxide is absorbed and mitigated. The amount of oxygen produced by a tree depends on several factors, including the species of tree, its health, and the ambient temperature. However, some typical calculations are that a single mature tree can absorb carbon dioxide at a rate of 48 pounds per year and release enough oxygen back into the atmosphere to support 2 humans. 1 acre of trees annually consumes the same amount of carbon dioxide equivalent to driving an average car for 26,000 miles. If we assume that an acre has roughly 300 trees, then 20 million new trees could consume the carbon dioxide equivalent of a new car driving over 1.7 billion miles annually. Last but not least, in addition to carbon dioxide, trees absorb other potentially harmful pollutants, such as sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide. The canopies of trees act as a physical filter, trapping particulates of dust, pollen, smoke, and smog. A single mature tree removes up to 2.2 pounds every year, which means 20 million could remove up to 44 million pounds. And that's not all. Studies have also shown that the dust level in the air can be as much as 75% lower on the sheltered side of a tree as compared to the windward side. No one, and we mean no one, likes dust in the air. So do yourself and your neighbors a favor and plant some trees, or donate a few dollars to TeamTrees.org and clean the air for yourself and generations to come. In July of 2019, a Swiss study stated that if we plant enough trees, we can stop or at least put a serious dent in climate change, which is why we're committed to helping TeamTrees.org's mission to plant 20 million new trees by 2020. The infographic show is getting involved, and you should too. Every donation of $1 equals a new tree planted. So become part of something huge with real benefits and show the world that the YouTube community can come together and do something incredible. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and be part of the movement to plant 20 million new trees by going to TeamTrees.org. And if you can't donate yourself, share this and other videos, and let's get your mom, dad, aunt, best friend, and everyone else involved. This episode was brought to you by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to sign up using the link in the description will get their first 2 months free. There are many natural and human sources of carbon dioxide, or CO2 as it's better known. These include burning fossil fuels such as coal, natural gas, and oil. Other sources are decomposition, ocean release, and of course, all the breathing that people and animals do to stay alive. Fortunately, we have plant life that absorbs a lot of the CO2 and releases it back into the atmosphere as oxygen. Trees are the main workers in this process, and we can think of them like the lungs of the planet. But what if you woke up one day and opened the blinds and there was not a tree in sight? What would happen to the planet? That's what we intend to find out in this episode of the Infographic Show. Could humanity survive without trees? Before we answer this crazy question, let's first look at some of the cool stuff that trees do. 5. A mature tree can absorb roughly 48 pounds of CO2 a year, which is about the same weight as 10 standard bags of sugar that you might buy at your local market. Another way to look at this is that an acre of trees absorbs enough carbon dioxide in a year to equal the amount produced when you drive a car 26,000 miles. 4. Then there's the ozone. Ozone is a natural layer of gas in the upper atmosphere, which protects humans and other living things from harmful ultraviolet light. Trees help to reduce ozone levels in urban areas. As an example, in New York City, a 10% increase in urban canopy translated to a reduction of peak ozone levels by around 4 parts per billion. 3. Trees also absorb sound and reduce noise pollution. So if you live near a freeway or a railroad track, a group of trees is very useful to quiet down the noise and allow you to sleep more easily. 2. Trees can help reduce air temperature by blocking sunlight. We've all experienced this when on a holiday and the sun is scorching. No better place to hide from the sun than in the shadow created by the canopy of a few palm trees. 1. When there's a big storm, trees help reduce runoff water, which in turn decreases soil erosion and the accumulation of sediments and potentially harmful chemicals transported to our streams. Okay, so there are a few major factors that make trees pretty darn important, and there are a whole lot more. But then we're not here just to discuss what trees do. We want to know what would happen if they all disappeared. There are approximately 3 trillion trees on planet Earth, according to ResearchGrade's Crowther et al. 2015 Nature Report. And these trees cover 31% of the world's land surface. For a start, the planet would look very different if all the trees were gone. Humans are cutting a lot of trees down, but it would still take decades or even hundreds of years to remove every last one. But in our imaginary scenario, let's assume by some act of God, the whole lot disappeared overnight. What would happen? The main issue would be the huge reduction in oxygen levels in the atmosphere. Oxygen makes up roughly 21% of the Earth's atmosphere, and our bodies need it to survive because it makes up as much as 65% of the human body, and it's also responsible for 90% of the body's energy. People can live for about a month without food and a week without water, but only a few minutes without oxygen. Trees produce about half the oxygen in the atmosphere. They do this through photosynthesis, which allows plants to convert energy from sun into chemical energy and later release it as oxygen. The remainder is produced in the oceans and by microscopic marine organisms called phytoplankton. So the environment would still have oxygen mixed in with the air we breathe even if all the trees were gone. But would it be enough for humans to survive? It's not an easy question to answer as it takes a fair bit of guesswork, and many online experts have differing opinions. Citable, a site that brings together information from a worldwide community of scientists, researchers, teachers, and students, has made the following calculations. If the ocean-dwelling phytoplankton provide us with half our required oxygen, then at current population levels we should be able to survive for at least 4,000 more years. So not bad, hey? However, there are many other factors to take into account, the main one being the increasing population size. Currently, there are 7.6 billion humans on the planet. The human population is projected to reach 9.8 billion in 2050 and 11.2 billion by 2100. So it's really not easy to predict what would happen with all those additional humans breathing the available oxygen. But then 4,000 years is a long way off. You would hope that by then we would have colonized Mars and worked out numerous ways to create our own atmosphere without the need for trees. Who knows? We may even be living in a world more like Star Trek. But even if we were able to survive, surely there would be other issues, right? Well, yes. Apart from the fact that the world's landscape would look pretty bare, the smog would also be unbearable, and many people would probably be diagnosed with lung diseases. Trees act like a giant filter to help reduce pollution. Their leaves intercept airborne particles and carbon monoxide, sulfur, and other greenhouse gases, which are absorbed by the leaf stomata. According to research in 2016 referenced by the BBC, more than 5.5 million people worldwide are dying prematurely every year as a result of air pollution. Most of these deaths are occurring in the rapidly developing economies of China and India. So imagine what would happen if we went from the air filtering 3 trillion trees we have today to zero. Air pollution masks would become a necessity, and there would be a lucrative market in selling clean bottled air. As crazy as that might sound, selling bottled air is already a business. Vitality, a company based in Edmonton, Alberta, collects air from the Canadian Rockies and compresses it into containers. A single 8-liter bottle of compressed Canadian air, which comes with a specially designed spray cap and mask, holds around 160 breaths and costs $24 per bottle. Thankfully, we're not going to wake up tomorrow and find all the trees have disappeared. But how many are we actually culling each year? It's not easy to get an exact number as most of the deforestation values are measured in land area, not in the number of trees. But as a guide, IntactForests.org concludes that intact forest landscapes from 2000 to 2013 were reduced globally by 70,000 square kilometers per year, which is about the size of Costa Rica. Over 13 years, that comes to a total of 919,000 square kilometers. In terms of the number of trees, density in primary forests varies from 50,000 to 100,000 trees per square kilometer. So that gives a number of around 3.5 billion to 7 billion trees cut down each year. It's not so many that will suffocate just yet, but we can see some forests are on their way out. Just what would a world without trees look like? Instead of just watching videos telling you what it might look